Okay. Hello, hello. There's Courtney already. Amazing. I'm gonna invite her in right away. Hope you're all doing well. Oops. Hello. Make this big.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening,
Good
good
evening.
moment, wherever you are in the world.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm really cold in here, so I switched the heating on full force and I had to do a last minute change because I was really sweaty. But all good. I'm really, really excited for this chat, for this conversation. So probably it's best before we dive into the topic if we both introduce ourselves, because my followers might not know who you are and what you do, and the other way around, because I'm sure there's some people here joining that don't know me or don't follow me. So do you want to introduce yourself, like what you do, who you are, and then we can get started.
Yeah, my name is Courtney. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I live in Chicago in the United States. I am a manifestation coach using the principles of law of assumption. And I am also a Reiki master teacher. And I'll talk a little bit about that in relation to buying the pearl. Um, but yeah, that's how most people know me. And I have been studying Neville for under a year, but I'm so passionate about it and I've seen such consistent results that I'm just like, this is it. This is the truth. And that's why I'm so excited for this conversation.
That's awesome. I'm really interested in Reiki, by the way. I think we can have an offline conversation about that. Um, cool. So I'm going to introduce myself real quick as well for those who don't know me. I'm Lorena. I'm also a sort of like spiritual coach, and my teachings are also based on Neville Goddard's teaching. So we have some overlap there. Um, but my focus is not so much meditation, it's more like a side effect for me. My focus is more on embodying source consciousness, God consciousness, and seeing the world as a projection, as a reflection, which will be interesting to talk about within this conversation. And I have a large focus on, like, I try to combine psychology and spirituality, and I have a focus on shadow work and inner child work as well. And I also teach breath work. And Courtney and I connected, I don't know how long ago, actually, probably almost a year, probably.
Maybe
How,
like 8 months. I
yeah.
was pretty close though.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, probably since you got into Neville Goddard, I think, like, yeah. Cool. So the topic we're going to talk about is buying the pearl, which, if you've never heard of it, we're going to explain what it is. It's a concept by Neville Goddard, or like that's how he calls it. And the idea is basically that your imagination is God and it's the only reality. Consciousness is the only reality. And to buy the pearl, that's the pearl that you are the sole creator, that you are the operant power. And to buy that pearl, you have to give up any belief in anything else, in anything external, in anything outside of yourself.
Yeah, no tarot readings, no psychics. I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago, and I was like, "You're your own psychic." And she was like, "Wow, I really needed to hear that because I was thinking about going to a psychic and getting a reading about this decision that I'm making." And what I wish I would have said to her is like, nothing is bigger than you because you're creating everything. So, like, this fear you have about leaving your job is only you playing a game with you because you're creating the belief in yourself that, like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in these circumstances. And it's like, no, you created it all and you can create something different. And all a psychic is going to do is just read your energy and just reflect it back to you. when I look back on all the psychic readings that I've had, everything they told me was something that I knew deep down, but I just went to them for confirmation and to make me feel better. And when you buy the pearl, you don't have to do that, because you're like, I imagined it. I'm assuming this. I'm expecting this thing. I know that I am the God in my reality. I know that I am the sole creator. I know that I'm the one giving life to everything. So why would I need to consult anybody else to
Yeah.
know if it's going to happen, or can I do this, or it's a full moon today, or like Mercury's in retrograde, what should I do? And it's just like, live your effing life. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes from a state of fear and doubt. And I guess when I think about my own journey and even how I found Neville's teachings, it makes sense because you're uncertain, you don't really know how reality works, you don't really know why things happen to you. You feel like things happen to you and not for you or from you when you don't test this. But when you look for things outside of yourself, you're really limiting yourself and you're keeping yourself stuck in that state of fear and in that state of doubt. So for me, like, I don't think you cannot get a tarot reading or you cannot like look into astrology, but as you say, it's a reflection. So it's something that it's a reflection of your subconscious. So as long as you're aware that it's not a future prediction, that nothing is set in stone, that whatever is reflected back to you is your current state, then you can do that. However, like, I guess in the beginning, when you first want to test conscious creation and when you're not really certain, when you don't really have the faith yet, I would probably advise not to do that because it can really shake you because it will reflect your doubts and fears.
For sure. I have a Twitter account and I follow a decent amount of people, and what I see in my feed, because I'm choosing to follow these people, are like psychic predictions for your astrological sign. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. And I just kind of like scroll past it, and but I see people that are like, oh my gosh, oh no, or I see people that are like, yes, I'm totally claiming this, or do you think, like, can I really have this? And I'm like, why are you asking them? Like, it's up to you whether or not you can have it. But given how we are raised, and I can't speak for Eastern society because I wasn't raised in it, but like in the Western world, you're taught to believe it when you see it. And Neville kind of taught that you will see it when you believe it. Believing it is what brings it in. Believing it is what creates it. But so often we're so used to looking at the 3D and being like, well, my bank account says I have this much. How can I feel like I'm rich when this is happening? How can I say that I'm employed when I haven't had a job in months? How
Yeah.
can I, imagine that I have clear skin and all this is happening? And it's like, well, all you're doing is keeping yourself on a hamster wheel. And like you said earlier, the key is to test it. We can read, we can watch all the videos and all these things, but until we test it and make it an everyday part of life, which is why I like that you said your approach is God consciousness, and that manifestations being a result of knowing that you are God and that your imagination is the ultimate creator in your life. But I also enjoy helping people to manifest these specific things. But my ultimate goal is for you to not need to come to me or anyone else for this one or two things that you need, that you just know, like, yeah, I'm a fucking badass. I'm God, and this world responds to me. It's not me reacting to the world. This world responds to me. I'm in control. I'm in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find the pearl.
You're the, yeah, yeah. And that's so amazing when you buy the pearl. It's not just about manifestation. And yes, you're right. It's such a beautiful thing to teach people to really take charge and to really take control of their own power and their own life. Like, I guess why I focus on God consciousness is because it's really the foundation. That is what buying the pearl is. And as soon as you buy the pearl, as soon as you really commit to this, nothing is outside of me. Everything is coming from within. Everything is projected outward and not the other way around. Nothing is happening to me, it's happening from me. As soon as you really shift into that belief and commit to it, your whole world shifts. You perceive situations differently. When like bad stuff happens around you, when you encounter circumstances you don't like I'm sure you get the question in your coaching all the time as well, how do I ignore the 3D, the physical reality? Well, you don't. You don't have to ignore it. You can acknowledge it. You just have to realize that it's nothing but a reflection, kind of like a lucid dream, where you also don't take that so seriously. You know it's not real. It's just a reflection of what you hold within. And that's kind of what happens when you really commit to this and you buy the pearl and you really have faith. Because once that happens, it's your reality is completely different. There's so much more ease. There's so much more curiosity, self-love, pleasure. Your life is just 180.
Yeah, I feel so much more relaxed about things. I don't feel this need to constantly do techniques or like, what do I need to be thinking right now? And like obsessing is, I can't really describe it, but the level of freedom that happens in the ease, it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
totally worth it. Hi, Otis.
Hi. It's me.
Manifested that. I was like, there's going to be a cat in our life, either Lorena's or one of mine. I know they're going to join. I know it's going to happen.
Oh, he always wants attention. When I'm looking at something else, he's like, pay attention to me. I manifested him that way as well. He's completely different. Okay, where were we? Oh, yeah, I know what I wanted to say. I think like the big problem for people is that even when they want to believe it, when they don't fully believe it yet, when they don't really fully believe they're the operant power yet, and they're still looking for outside proof in order to validate that belief, I'm the sole creator, I'm the operant power, is because it's coming from a state of doubt and fear. They will still get that reflection of uncertainty, and it will just be a cycle. So I have so many clients that will come to me that will be like, I really want to believe this, and I really want to manifest this one thing or multiple things. But whenever I see something opposing, I react, like I can't remain in the state. Like, what should I do? And I guess that's the thing, like you just need to go all in, no matter what. Like you just need to get to the point where this becomes your only reality, where regardless of what happens outside of yourself, regardless of the doubts that might surface, the fears that might come up, or the negative thoughts, Valeska saying, ha, that's me. Regardless of what's happening, you're like, it doesn't matter to me because I've committed to this, and this is the only thing I'm willing to accept.
Yes, yes. When I was in the process of manifesting my electric bike, my previous bike was stolen. And so I didn't have a personal bike of my own. But internally, I was like, I have my electric bike. It's downstairs right now. It's safe and secure. Like, this is the only thing I'm accepting. Even when I would come home drenched in sweat from like riding another bike and just be completely exhausted and frustrated, I allowed myself to feel frustrated, but I went right back into my imagination and I was like, no, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. And the more that I saturate myself in that truth or that feeling, I know that I will soon see it out here. And I'm not allowing myself to be tossed around by the 3D, at least on a, constant basis. There were just these little hiccups, but I was just like, you already know that it's yours. It's just a matter of time. Like, it's okay that you're upset right now, but like soon it's going to be yours. It's a done deal.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example because You acknowledged your feelings, you felt your feelings, you didn't fight your feelings, because fighting your feelings is also fighting your circumstances. You allowed it to happen, you allowed yourself to also be human, but you still knew deep down, and you still committed to this, and you embodied this deep down. And it's also a perfect example that whatever we're manifesting, if it's not here instantly, um, like the bridge of incidents, what happens along the way might look completely
Mm-hmm.
opposite from what we would like. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be difficult or challenging. But when it is, if it is, don't freak out, because you know it's all your reflection, and it's not such a big deal.
And it's malleable, it's
Yes.
shifting. Like things are constantly shifting, and events, people, whatever, like they only take on the meaning and perception that we give it. They can't be anything other than the perception or label that we slap on it. So you can choose to believe that, like, oh man, this means it's not going to happen. Well, then it's not going to happen. Or you can choose to believe that, oh, this is just part, this is the bridge of incidents. This is just part of the shift, the change. Everything's shifting in my favor. I just know that. Deep down, you know, that's a core belief. Everything is shifting in my favor. Everything always works out in my favor, and I don't have to worry.
Yeah. Yeah, and core belief is a very important word in that, because I guess what people often do is create a lot of pressure. Like you and I just said earlier, it's fun. It's meant to be fun. Once you're like committed to this, and once you're in this state and you're seeing everything as a reflection, and you know that it's all coming from you, you stop taking things so seriously. When people don't yet fully believe this, but want to believe this, they want to buy the pearl, but they haven't just quite, it's like they put so much pressure on themselves, and they make it this unachievable goal, and they make it so out of reach and so external and so difficult. So it continues to be difficult because they're not having fun with it. They're not like releasing the pressure, releasing the resistance, if that's the word you want to use.
So I would challenge everyone who's watching this live, or anyone who is watching the replay, make a game of it and make it relevant to you. I had someone message me and they were like, I'm trying to manifest a petri dish and I'm just not seeing it. And I was like, well, what relevance does a petri dish have to your everyday life? Like, I was genuinely curious, like, why the petri dish? So whatever it is that you are in the process of manifesting, I don't like to say trying because that implies effort and all these things, but whatever you're in the
And
process.
you in trying, it keeps you in the state of I'm trying.
Exactly, you either are or you aren't.
Yeah.
I am manifesting this or I am not. And so I was like, it needs to feel natural for you. Find a way to make whatever it is natural. So maybe you give up the petri dish, but like, I think it's natural to see a rainbow in your everyday life. Not necessarily one in the sky, but like an emoji or a rainbow painting or whatever. Just play, make a game of it and test yourself in a fun way, as opposed to putting all this pressure like, I must manifest this extremely, well, this thing that I'm considering rare. I'm going to make it rare in my mind. I'm going to label it rare. And I'm testing myself to see if I can do it. And if I can't do it, then I give up. Like, clearly it's not working.
Yeah, so you're already telling yourself it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And that's the state you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to also talk about our personal journeys, or like how we got to this stage of having faith and really committing to it, and what we did before or what we encountered before. Just because I feel like people might find it more relatable because it's less abstract than just talking about the concept. So do you want to share your story, like how you found the teachings, what you did before? Because I know you were also like, you were speaking about psychics and astrology and different things. So yeah, do you want to share?
Yeah. So years ago, actually, I was having my own personal Reiki session, like experiencing Reiki for myself. And I went in and I had this little question. I didn't share it with the person who was giving me Reiki, didn't make it a part of our session that day, but I was like, is there a God? Because I wasn't 100% sure at the time. And there was this moment where I heard Neville's voice. I didn't know it was Neville, but I just heard this voice, and it sounded like a voice you would hear on an old-timey radio. And he was like, on the first day, God did this. And there was just this instant shift in the room, and that solidified in me that God is real. Just that little moment. And so years went on, and I was on YouTube. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I came across this Neville video, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the voice that I heard.
Wow.
But I didn't dive into Neville. I was like, that's really interesting. You know, that's an interesting thing that he's talking about, but didn't feel the need to gravitate towards his work. I was very much into Abraham Hicks at the time. And I was a faithful Abraham Hicks fan for about 3 or 4 years. And at the end of last year, I was just so frustrated. I was like, why am I not manifesting anything? I'm thinking about it. I'm positive. I'm, you know, happy. I'm keeping my vibration high. Why is this not manifesting for me? And cue COVID-19 and quarantine, and somehow I found another Neville video, and I was just like, I don't have anything to lose. Let me, you know, find out more about his work. And I started finding other teachers, and then I put it into practice. So instead of reading and watching all these videos, I was like, I'm going to test this out. I am going to live in the inn. I'm going to imagine, because I was really good at daydreaming. But for me, the difference between a daydream and imagination is, in imagination, I am in it.
You're feeling it.
I'm feeling it. It's first person, not so much second or third. And like I'm watching a movie.
Not external and abstract. You're in it. You're immersed in it. Yeah.
Exactly. The difference between like watching a movie and like being a character in the movie. And for me, that just changed everything. Just seeing that, like, as a result of imagining something and believing that I will see it play out at some point in my life. And it does. It happens. It's very instantaneous. And I love to talk to clients about all the little small ways that we're imagining, but we don't call it imagination. Like, if you're picturing the end of the month that you're not going to have any money, that's imagination. If when this specific person calls your phone and you're like, oh God, I don't want to talk to them, you're imagining how they're going to be on the phone. Or someone else, you're like, oh my gosh, it's them. I know we're going to have a great conversation. It's always great, blah, blah, blah. That's imagination. That's assumption, belief, expectation. And we do it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so automatic. And I think that's probably why people are often like, I don't understand how I manifested this. So this is actually a question I got, which I thought was an excellent question, which was basically about if you are God, if I am God, and I create my reality, everything's like a projection of me. How do I take responsibility without blaming myself? And I thought this was such a great question, because that's something that comes up a lot, because it's not about blame. You're not doing anything wrong. And a lot of what you project outward is not conscious. A lot of it is not even a direct reflection. So the examples you just said, for example, it's not that you made the assumption that that person that called you was a bad person in your head. It might not have been that direct assumption, but you might have some like generic feeling that is then projected outward, or you might have a general assumption about people from that age or that gender or whatever it is that are that way, and that is then reflected outward. So it's not always direct. not always easy to see, so there's nothing to blame.
Mm-hmm.
An element of taking responsibility, as in accepting
Had a
and
little bit
then
of a
being okay with what
pause.
you're seeing and letting it be and choosing differently.
I don't
Oh,
know if
you're
it's
frozen.
me. Thanks for
Blaming
sticking
myself
with
again. That's
us.
me. Yes, stop it. I keep telling you.
We need to get on another device.
Let's see. She returns. Can you all hear me still? See me, hear me still? Can someone message, please?
Uh-oh.
So I can see if it's Courtney or if it's me. Yeah, you can hear me?
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm able to join.
Guess we'll wait a bit.
I was able
Well,
to
I'll
join
continue with that
with
question.
my iPad. I'm not sure if you can hear
She
me.
back. Not back for me yet. Ah, okay, she's probably gonna try and join again. In the meantime, I'll continue with that question. There she is, yes. Oops. Right.
Back in
Hello.
business.
We're back in business. All good. Some internet problems. See, for example, that's an assumption that that's something that I thought about a second before we started this live. I hope we won't have issues with the internet. There we go. Am I fucking blaming myself? No, I'm not.
No.
It happens.
Just being a neutral observer. Same thing happens with me too.
Yeah, exactly. You're not always going to have a perfect life. That's not what it's about. It's just about realizing where it comes from and having and being empowered, realizing that you can shift things and you can change things. And even if you do like encounter something that you're really not happy about, you you have the tool of forgiveness. You can forgive yourself, um and forgiveness, according to Neville, is also not the traditional, and also according to A Course in Miracles, by the way, if anyone knows that, it's also not the traditional I or someone did something wrong and I'm like looking past that. It's forgetfulness. It's realizing that it's not even real.
Mm-hmm. And we only animate those past events by like dwelling on them and recalling them again. So yeah, it is exactly that, forgetting that it ever even happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like as I said before, it's kind of like a lucid dream. So when you dream at night, the characters in that dream are also just your consciousness projected outward. Like they're not real. And when you wake up, you're not taking that seriously. You're realizing, oh, that was just a dream. And you still gave those people in that dream roles. You still had people that maybe there were zombies you were away from, or you had someone really attractive in that dream. Whatever it is, when you wake up, you realize, oh, this is just an illusion. I just created this, and I'm gonna let it go.
Same for waking life at moments. Like if you see something that you don't like, then don't feed it your attention, don't animate it, don't make it larger than you. I'm not necessarily saying ignore it, but it only has as much power as you give it. And
Yeah,
ultimately, you are the power. You're the one that's creating everything. So you decide if it's relevant or not.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I also wanted to ask about your journey. Obviously, when you then like found Neville, um, did it take some time for you to give up beliefs in anything external, or did you dive in head first?
I feel like I dove in pretty deeply into the waters. I no longer like watched little tarot videos that I used to watch, and then eventually I like unsubscribed. I was just like, there's really no need for me to really watch this. I'm the one creating my future. I don't need anyone else to tell me like what is possible for me. And even when I was watching those videos, it was more to like hype myself up and get excited. If they ever said something that I didn't agree with or I just didn't want for myself, I would just be like, that's irrelevant, that's irrelevant. And eventually I just didn't need it anymore. I still believe in astrology, but I don't give astrology power over me, if
Mm,
that makes sense. I'm not like, what is this planet doing? And because the sun is in this sign, this isn't possible or blah, blah, blah. I just kind of pick and choose. If it feels good, I roll with it. And if it doesn't, I leave it.
yeah, yeah. I'm quite similar. Like I mainly like astrology for the memes, to be honest. But yeah, like you can still use those things as long as you don't put stock into it and give your power away. For example, like the example you just said with the tarot readings, when you get a reading and you get something that you don't like, you don't have to accept it. And if you don't feel strong enough to not accept that in, then don't get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think those sort of things, like the little videos and readings, I think they can be helpful when you're absolutely lost and you don't know what you want. It can sort of give you an idea of, well, these are the energies that people who have your same sun sign or whatever, this is kind of where they're at. And honestly, I think you can find inspiration for creating your life everywhere. It doesn't just have to be these things. There's a channel that I watch from time to time, Create Your Future on YouTube. And one of the things that I like that she says is look at life as like a catalog. So if someone has this certain kind of car, they have this certain kind of house or whatever, see it as like a catalog. Like that's possible for me too. So I want this, I want that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like flow with life. It's not about dismissing everything and being like, okay, I'm only in my imagination and like I'm
Right.
at everything, anything else. That's kind of why we say ignoring the physical reality doesn't mean you don't acknowledge it or you pretend it's not there. It's not about denying anything. It's just about seeing it as not taking it so seriously, seeing it as what it is, a reflection, and choosing a different state instead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to know more about your journey.
Um, my journey is completely different, actually, in the sense that I never really looked into astrology, tarot, any of these things. Psychics, never a big deal for me. Um, I guess I always saw myself as spiritual, but for a large part of my life, I hid it because it was weird. But I was like, when I was like 4 years old, I was like, Grandma, what's God? Who's God? What happens after death? Like that. um, so as soon as I was older and I allowed myself to dive into spirituality, I did, but I came more from the side of Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, no desire, no craving. Desire is bad. So it's like the exact opposite, acceptance, because desire creates attachment and attachment makes you unhappy,
Mm.
which I still think it can do if you remain in the state of desiring.
Yes. And Neville, yeah, I don't 100% grasp Neville's description of desire because he uses it in two different ways. He says that like God speaks to you through the language of desire. And then there's also when you desire something, you're not craving it. though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it comes from like the state you're in. Like when you have a desire and you accept it as yours, you claim it,
Mm-hmm.
take it as a nudge from God, you're meant to have this. Because I
Yeah.
truly believe that if you have a desire, you wouldn't have a desire if it wasn't possible. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like it doesn't even make sense. If there wasn't at least a little possibility for you to have it, why would you desire it? It's something that you're hoping for when you have a desire, but maybe not yet believing it. And Neville's teachings were really profound for me. I also started with the law of attraction, but I didn't really dive into that too much because I found Neville quite shortly after, and I didn't understand Abraham. And as soon as I as soon as I studied Neville's teachings, I was like, wow, first of all, desire isn't bad. Great. Secondly, I meant to have this. Fantastic. And the third thing is, oh, it makes sense now. If you stay in wanting and in craving, of course it's going to create attachment. Like the Buddhist teachings aren't wrong. It creates
Mm-hmm.
attachment because attachment is like it's outside of me, it's over there, I don't have it. But if you move to the state of already having it, if you move to the end, if you live to the end, if you trust your imagination and really dive into this, you're fulfilled. You don't desire
Mm-hmm.
more because you already embody it.
Exactly. How can you want something that you already have, or at
Are.
the very least has been promised to you?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just like waiting, just like we wait for a package. But you're not like, oh my God, where is the package? It's gotten delayed, it's gotten lost. They they destroyed it in the mail or something. It's just like, no, I know it's coming. It's fine. I'm just gonna
Ex-
keep living my life until I get the notification that it's here.
yeah, exactly. Take the pressure off and continue to live your life and have fun with it and have fun living your life. It did take me a long time though to get to this stage. So I totally get people who are like going back and forth because that was Neville says you cannot serve two masters. So
Mm-hmm.
either you fully buy this, you fully believe this, you fully buy the pearl and you trust this 100%, or you don't. You
Yep.
can't be like, I imagine this and now I believe this and now I assume this to be true and to be real and to be here now. And then you open your eyes and as soon as you see something opposing, you're like, oh, okay, well then that's not true. No, you have to like stay in that state and really commit to it no matter what happens on the outside. So for me, for a long time, I was in and out, back and forth, back and forth. And it took a real breakdown for me to break through.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got to a point where I was so fed up with it. And there were a few big desires. Of course, I made them big in my head that I wanted so badly that I just couldn't seem to grasp, just couldn't seem to embody. And I was just so frustrated. I was just so, I cannot do this another day. I am so sick of it. I don't want to do it anymore. Like I give up. But of course, once you realize this, and I had tested it and I did believe it, I couldn't go back. There's no way. Like once you're in, like it's like in the Matrix,
Yep. Once
right?
you take that pill.
Still, it's like it's over.
And honestly, I'm like, why would you want to go back? I just feel like these teachings are so transformational, and that's why I'm so passionate about sharing them, because once you test it for yourself and you see the results and you make it a part of your everyday existence, as opposed to, okay, now I'm going to
Okay.
use Neville Goddard to manifest this one thing, and it's like, no, you're doing it all. It is all you.
Exactly. Exactly. But like I wanted to give up because I was in pain. I was just so frustrated, but it was of course I was hurting myself because I was back and forth, I was in, I was out. So I totally broke down. I cried it all out. I was totally in the space of I'm stagnant. I I'm stagnant. I'm stuck. I felt really stuck. I was like, I can't go forward because I don't believe it. Apparently I can't do it. And I can't go backward because I know how it works now. What am I going to do? And I just fell apart. And shortly after, even the next day I woke up and I was like, I just don't want to like think about these desires anymore. I just don't want to think about it anymore. But that day, throughout the day, something shifted where I was like, I have to go all in. I just have to. There's no other way. So as soon as I started seeing it as the only option, things changed. And that doesn't mean I don't have bad days. I do
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm a crier. I cry a lot and I get very emotional and I get anxiety and I have all of those things that a lot of people struggle with. But I see them as just what they are. They're just thoughts, they're just feelings. They're not permanent. And I can choose to shift my state at all times. The choice is mine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No longer seeing these things as larger than you, but seeing them as parts of you and transient experiences, kind of like clouds in the sky. They're just passing through.
Yeah, exactly. There's a I don't know the exact quote, but in A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, she says something like, the sky is always blue, even when there's clouds and it's temporarily gray. It's temporary. Underneath, the sky is always blue, and at some point, these clouds will disappear, and you will see the blue sky again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So beautiful. Okay, what else did we want to talk about before we can also move into questions otherwise? Oh, you
Yeah,
want to
I
talk
just,
Christmas as well?
yep, yep. You read my mind. So I feel like buying the pearl very much relates to Christmas. And I'm not going to get too deep into the way that Neville teaches Christmas, but I ultimately see it as you are your own Santa Claus. You are the person that's giving you the gifts. And like looking back on my life, I'm like, I can see that. I grew up in a way where like my parents gave me 90% of what I wanted and everything that I needed. So like I do acknowledge that it's easy for me to think like I always get what I want because
Yeah,
that's just how I grew up. Um, and I've also taught some of my clients who didn't have that circumstance that like no matter what your past was, right now you can choose that you always get what you want. And so I feel like buying the pearl and relying 100% on your imagination relates to Christmas. It's just like whatever it is that you want, give it to yourself, see yourself with it in your imagination, and know that you're going to get it. You don't have to wait until December to get all these things that you want. It can just be an everyday experience, a monthly, a weekly experience where you get what you want.
yeah. I love that. And celebrate those small wins. Like celebrate every single synchronicity that you see. Because I have so many clients that are like, I'm like, oh, I just see like synchronicities. I just like manifest small things. Celebrate those small things. That's amazing. That's so great. And yeah, I love your description of Christmas. That's really, really cute. Um, and as far as I'm aware, like I don't know exactly how Neville describes it, but I think he describes Christmas as the birth of man as God. So it's kind of like the awakening of yourself,
Mhm.
your human self to being God. So it's
Yep,
buying the pearl in that sense is you realize who you really are and you fully step into that and you fully claim that and you forget everything outside of that.
exactly. Yeah.
And I also really love what you said about letting go of the past because that's something like I always say your trauma doesn't define you because everybody has trauma. I like to make my approach very trauma informed because um, often people get stuck in their past and it has an impact on their present life, but that does not have to hold you back. You can let your trauma be trauma and have that be a part of your past, and you don't have to let that hold you back. That only holds you back if you believe it holds you back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Shall we see if there are any questions? Maybe we can see if there are live questions, and otherwise we can get into any questions that we might have gotten before. Sorry, I
Thank
didn't.
you all for the love.
Yeah, it's really, really cute. Really sorry, I didn't really see the all of the comments. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just curious if folks, how to stop thinking in terms of big and small.
Ooh.
Ah.
Mhm.
Do you want to respond first?
What was the question? I don't see it.
How do we stop thinking of our manifestations in terms of big and small, and how to avoid making manifesting a specific person more difficult than a coffee for free?
Okay. Um, yeah, I think that's a very common one. And where I would start is basically what we just said, celebrating the small wins, because they aren't small. Like, lots of people say, oh, like your big desires aren't big, they're also small desires. I like to see it the other way around. Everything is a big desire, because then you make everything like this big deal, as in when it comes, you're like, this is amazing, I'm badass. um, and when it comes to a specific person, I think why that happens is because we're emotionally more involved and we create more pressure for ourselves. So we find it hard to let go. And by letting go, I mean not letting go of the desire. I mean letting go of the pressure, of the resistance, of this, it has to happen now, of this, it isn't here yet. What do I do? Because there's an emotional attachment in a way. And that's valid because there's feelings involved. And you don't have those kind of feelings for a free cup of coffee, which is totally valid and fine. Um, I guess what I would say to that is acknowledge that and be okay with your feelings, be okay with your emotions. And as I said before, let them wash over you when they come. Be okay with it when you're in a state where you just don't feel good, where you feel a bit sad, where you maybe miss this person or whatever the case may be, but knowing deep down that even those feelings are just a projection, and even those feelings are just a state, and it doesn't really matter, and it's temporary, and deep down it's already done. That's how I would approach that.
I would use that attachment to my advantage, honestly. I recently did a post on like getting into character, and I stand by it. I believe that the way you go beyond big and small is to make whatever it is that you want natural.
Yeah.
So how do you make an SP natural? That's for you to kind of like figure out and get curious on, because you in a relationship, you in the state of being partnered, you're going to show up differently and you're going to think differently, you're going to feel differently. And so if it helps you to write that down, or to try to act it out with someone, like get on a FaceTime call with your best friend and be like, okay, we're going to pretend that you're my boo. And like, we're on a date right now. And I want you to tell me how gorgeous I look, or how handsome, or whatever word resonates with you. I mean, that's literally how I manifested my SP, not with the FaceTime call, but just like getting into character and
Right.
living in the end from like, okay, how would the Courtney who's in a relationship act right now? Like,
Yeah.
what would she be thinking? I wouldn't be on Tinder. I wouldn't get all excited about these speed dating emails that I'm getting, because I'm already in a relationship. So just saturating yourself in that feeling state, in that consciousness of, I'm already in a relationship, because we manifest from the inside out. If on the inside you're feeling single, you're feeling insecure or whatever, you're just going to keep getting experiences that mirror that back to you and tell you, oh, you're single. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was definitely in a place in my life at one point where I had that kind of feeling attached to being single.
Hmm.
And my parents were the ones who reflected that back to me. My parents and my best friend. My parents would be like, so are you, no, they'd be like, so are you dating anyone? Like, what's going on?
Take
It's
care.
been a while since I've heard you talk about someone. Like, what's going on? And I knew that something changed when they were like, so are you seeing someone? I don't know. You just seem different. And at the time, I wasn't seeing someone, but in my internal world, I was already dating. I was already with the SP. So use that attachment to your advantage and get into character of having the SP to make it natural so that there isn't this like, oh, it's so big and it's not here yet and it's outside of me.
And it's a huge fucking deal. Yeah. And I also want to address self-concept in that, in relation to that, because it stems from how do you perceive yourself and what do you embody, which self-concept is too big a topic to get into right now because I don't know how long these IG lives can be, but
Right. That's a whole nother one.
I also saw someone ask about free will, which I think is also too big a topic, but I will say I do have an article on my website about everyone as you pushed out and the world being your mirror. And there is a paragraph about free will, and how I explain it in there. So if you want to check that out and read that, I recommend that. But yeah, I think that's a bit too big of a topic to dive into in 5 minutes. um, cool. Okay. I think that's it. If anyone has a quick question, um, we're happy to answer that. And otherwise, we might leave it here.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here and all the love that you've been consistently showering us with throughout the live. I had a lot of fun. I'm really glad we were able to do this.
Yeah,
And hopefully we can do another one.
I would love that. Yeah. Let us know. You can message us both, either or, and let us know if you'd like us to do another one. And if so, which topic you'd like us to talk about. So that
Mm-hmm.
could be free will, it could be self concept, whatever you want.
Yep, because you're manifesting.
Yeah, manifest
So,
it happen. Beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for joining me as well, Courtney, because I know I requested this and I'm really happy you wanted to collaborate with me too. Um, yeah, amazing.
thank you, Lorena, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Give Otis a kiss for me.
I will do that. I will do that. Everyone, have a lovely day or night wherever you are. And yeah, I'm sending you so much love. And to you too, Courtney.
Thank you.
Bye.